So at the beginning of the year, I talked about this story that the Irish Navy ships didn't have working guns, machine guns, or the cannon at the front of the ship operational. Basically, they couldn't fire. They couldn't basically be operated because they wouldn't maintained. Because they didn't have the people who maintained the guns. They didn't have the engineers, I suppose you would call them. They didn't. We used to have loads. We used to have a good few engineers, and obviously they left because they weren't getting paid anything. They pretty much were getting paid little to nothing for getting a big. Because it's a lot of tricking about to get these guns working, to maintain, to look after them. They need to be looked after, and of course it takes time to learn all this and to get to know how to do it, etc., etc. A lot of them have left to join private merchant companies, etc., etc. And who could blame them? We're getting far more. And you take these men and women. There were some women too who specialised in this, who knew in the ins and outs of all the guns. You think the government would say we should probably keep them and pay them a few bob and make sure the guns are working on a navy ship, because it's not just a fishing ship. It's a navy ship, it's a warship. It's used for firing on, God forbid, enemies coming to our country to invade, or God forbid people trying to human traffic us, take example, or in the case recently enough, people bringing in drugs into the country. That's what the cannons are there for. They're not for show. They're there to be used to do basically destroy any enemies of the state. And this is back in January, so we finally have an update. The naval service were forced. They couldn't get anybody to work for little to nothing. They were offering them pennies. They were offering them a few pennies. Here's a few pennies to go and learn all this difficult stuff, and maybe spend a few years trying to learn out everything. And as again, the specialist people, these people are not, they would have to learn a lot about these guns, the ins and outs, or the whole shebang. And obviously that's not easy. It's very difficult work to keep it going, because again, especially nowadays, it's not like years ago Navy ships. It's all electronics in terms of aiming them, etc., etc., fire controls, if that makes any sense. And obviously this is to do with the whole nearly. There's only 2 ships on the high seas in the Irish Navy, because there's no manpower, there's no people to put onto the ships. They won't pay. First of all, there's no such thing as there's no men and women to put on the ships. They won't pay them. That's the problem. That's the big problem in this country. They simply won't pay them to be on the ships, to stay on the ships, to look after the country. They won't do it. The government refused to do it. They expect us to run to NATO to patrol our seas, etc., etc., which is utterly ridiculous. But yeah, the state is out a huge amount of money, 250,000. That could be more. I wouldn't be surprised now in a few years' time we come back and it'll be 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 a year just to keep these guns operational on the Navy ships. And especially because we had the personnel. It was different. It was different if we never did. We did. We had people that could do it beforehand. And of course, the money that's been spent on this should have been spent to look after them people, give them a decent pay rise, give them decent conditions, etc., etc. But they decided, let's go and get contractors and stuff like that, which is insane, because in the long term, contracting stuff out is not a good solution, because obviously them contractors and stuff will claim expenses, etc. That's where I'm going, expenses and etc. This is just what they're charging up for. Then there's expenses, equipment, etc. You could be looking at a lot, as I say. So it's a lot cheaper, first of all, for the state to just give people, the Irish people jobs, first of all, and pay them to be looked after. This private company is coming from the United States, and they're paying them thousands to do it. God knows how much for just, it could be only 3 times a year, compared to when, take for example, we had Irish people employed to do this, and they knew what they were doing and stuff like that. They could do it every probably month, look after the weapons and make sure they're fully operational, fully war prepared, I suppose, in a way. Because that's what the Navy ship is. It's not a fishing ship. It's there for a purpose. It's a warship. It's supposed to be capable of fighting any invader, etc. Obviously, the majority of Irish Navy ships are not heavily armed. They have a cannon in the front, a few machine guns here and there. But in the long story, it's not heavily armed. But still, it can put up a fight, I'm sure. But it's not like the Royal Navy or other navies where there's huge cannons, etc., etc. And especially because half of it doesn't exist, because half of it's basically in the port, sitting there gathering dust, with nobody to be put on the ships. So it's a huge problem, because as we know, the majority of drugs coming into Ireland are coming in by the sea, by a mothership, through smaller boats onto the island of Ireland. And the same with human trafficking. They're not coming through the airports, they're coming through the high seas. So yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think the Navy should try their best, and the government should try their best to gain specialists, to give them an extra pay rise? I would nearly suggest to give them a 20 or 30,000 euro pay rise, because they're inexpensive to the state. What I mean by that is, to keep because again we had a good few a while ago. If we would have kept them people, we would have been far better off as a state. Not even just financially, just having the knowledge in Ireland. Say, for example, if there's a war situation, God forbid, we couldn't rely on contractors to come in. We would have to rely on ourselves. That's the whole thing. So if a situation did arise and we didn't have the people who had to rely on contractors, they might take a week or so to get here to come and service the ship or service the guns. If a situation did arise, it would be a lot better for the country to have people that knew what they were doing in the naval service in Ireland. So let me know what you think. Subscribe for more and bye.